Literally minutes after I left Bensonville on my second Bensonville trip, I arrived at UP's Proviso yard. The plan for this day was to go to Proviso yard and stay there, catch trains until lunch, and then head off to the BNSF racetrack in Aurora with hopes of catching the 552 War Bonnet. It didn't go very well. Here's the story, I guess.
Warning, this video does not contain major spoilers for the previous parts of the series. You should totally watch them though. Anyways, on to the show.
When we drove on Mannheim Road on the overpass over Proviso Yard for the first time, my reaction was, man, that's a big yard. Unfortunately, our tiny monkey brains couldn't realize that we could just stand on the edge of the overpass for great views. So we headed down and drove alongside the road right here, passing by the main line, which was unfortunately held up by a freight train, and then snuck into this little cranny between buildings to get a view of the yard. Unfortunately, nothing was moving, but we were able to catch a glimpse of a few UP engines, like an ACE T4, an AC 6000 rebuild, a Phase 2-9, which was only barely visible, an AC 4400, a ACE, and of course, a GEVO. However, besides the non-existent yard action, there was a UP employee who came to talk to us. We thought he was going to yell at us and kick us off the property, but fortunately he didn't. And he told us that we should go up on the overpass to catch trains, which we should have realized that, but we just straight up didn't. But we did have one more spot to hit, and I wanted to go to the end of the yard since it was closer. So we did just that. But while we were driving, we realized the road we were driving down paralleled the main line for quite a while, making it a great pacing spot. Which, I'd never paced before, so I was really excited to do it. So, we decided to stick around here until a train heading the correct direction showed up. At the end of the yard, unsurprisingly, we found 3 Norfolk Southern engines, an AC-44, GEVO, and -9. NS has to lease these engines to UP to make up for the 10 billion UP engines they leased back in 2022, which I caught plenty of, and now NS has to pay them back in horsepower hours. Then, the same Phase 2-9 I saw before pulled through the yard with its same locomotives of the AC-44, ACE, and GEVO. But before I could finish filming that, I was jump scared by this metro train. And after that passed, we catch the engines again on the other side of the Norfolk Southern power. The NS engine at the front has also moved. As the metro train pulled out of the station, though, I realized, hold up, the leader on that was an F40PH-2 in Metra's original paint scheme. I thought all of these had gotten absolutely murdered and replaced by the SD70 Mac H. But, apparently not, as almost every train we saw on this line had a -2 at the helm. Speaking of that, then another metro train pulled in, now going our direction. So it's pacing time. And luckily for us, the leader on this train was also a -2 F40PH. I just cannot put into words how darn cool pacing is. If you haven't done it yet, you probably should. After that, we finally headed up onto the overpass, where we saw two NS engines completely unrelated to the other three moving across the yard. Now we get a good view of the locomotive shops, and there's just so many engines in here, the majority of them aces. Then, the remote set of UP SD40-2 started backing a cut of cars right underneath us. Note the employee hanging off the rear of the car. Won't want to do that for too long. Meanwhile, a UP Jeep pulled into the locomotive sidings to pick up a local freight. Meanwhile, the remote engines came to a stop. Looks like this is the closest view we're getting of them. Now, the Jeep has made it to the end of the siding and is picking up some cars. But as we were filming that, we realized, hey, there's a parking lot down there. So we headed down and unfortunately missed getting a good shot of the Jeep again. We walked across the parking lot right next to the locomotive sidings, where I got to see the SD70 Ace 8855, the SD70 Ace T4 3064, the rebuilt AC 6000 CW in the new UP paint scheme 6955, another UP Ace 8311, this one's not looking great, and finally UP rebuilt AC 6000 CW number 7334. Back up on the overpass, we get to see a UP SD40-2 switching some intermodal cars. We thought this SD70M was going to come over here. It moved 2 feet. With there not being very much action by Mannheim Road, we decided to head to the end of the yard where I had scouted out this spot on Google Maps. And on the Google Maps Street View, there was plenty of gen sets. So I expected this would be a good spot. On the way back over Mannheim Road, we managed to catch 2 UP SD40s and I think one of the previous Norfolk Southern engines right by the overpass. But once we arrived, no gen sets. I can't find any gen sets. No gen sets. No gen sets. In fact, there were so few gen sets that there were no locomotives. Except these two, but they didn't come over here, so they don't count. After that, I wanted to pace a freight train, so we headed all the way back to Proviso Drive. We managed to catch a few glimpses of locomotives on the way, however. As we drove into Proviso Drive, we saw the signals and, well, 2 of them were green, so we thought a freight had to be coming any second now. 45 minutes later, our first train showed up and it was a Metra, this time with an F40PH-3 leading. Soon after, another Metra came. These were the 2 Metras the signals had been calling for, which means we weren't going to get a freight. But I did decide to pace this one, and I even did an under-train shot for good measure. And the locomotive was an F40PH-2. Nice. After waiting even longer for the freight train that would never come, this power move showed up with an AC6000 leading, AC44 in second, ACT4 in third, and 2 AC6000s behind that. Not a single GEVO in this lash-up, surprisingly. We were tired of UP's showing of absolutely nothing, so we headed to Aurora, and on the way, we caught a few glimpses of a BNSF GEVO as a DPU on the rear of this freight train. Wonder if this will be important later. We headed onto this overpass for literally 2 seconds because there were no trains, except for this pair of GEVOs sitting down here. We walked down to get some better shots of them, those being the 6332 and the 6302, which weren't moving, so we headed down this way to the BNSF locomotive storage area. Now, you can't go over here, and I knew that, so all these shots are from pretty far away. On this side, we have two SD40-2s. And then over here, there's a Jeep. And way back in the yard, there's a line of BNSF wide cabs. And we also accidentally caught this pair of GEVOs leading an auto rack train. We then headed to the overpass at the other end of the yard. We would stay for the rest of the trip. First train was a Metro with Winnebago leading and Dash 2 in second. Second train, meeting the first one because man they're busy here, was that same BNSF manifest with the 3 GEVOs, 2 at the helm and 1 at the rear, which are the 3 we had seen earlier. Yeah, there wasn't anything interesting on the head end of this train, I just tried to hype it up to make it seem interesting and drive audience engagement or something. The next train was an Amtrak, surprisingly, led by 2 P42s with an all pre-charger lash-up. Crossing under the bridge, it met with a BNSF freight train, one of the big, fast intermodal Z trains. And I bet you'll never, ever guess what was leading. 4 whole GEVOs! But hey, one of the DPUs was an ace, the other was a GEVO. You know, before when people said BNSF has too many GEVOs on the roster, I thought they were just exaggerating. But no, I was just getting lucky. Man, oh man, there are way too many. On the other side of the overpass, we were able to get these few glimpses of this stopped MAU equipment. If anyone knows what these do or why they're here, let me know, I guess. The next train was a Metra pushed by a single F40PH-2. Not too long later, there was a BNSF manifest that didn't have a single GEVO on it? What? The power was two H2-9s. Not rare, but man, do they look good. Well, they probably did look good when they were new. Next was a Metra powered by a single Winnebago. This was 212. I was kind of upset because I was hoping to see 211. At least I didn't see 210. Next up was a BNSF local freight in air quotes. We thought this was our local. We thought this was gonna have the 552 war bonnet on it. Little did we know this was just a mainline train that was taking a branch line. Don't know where exactly this branch line leads, but whatever. It was an auto rack with two GEVOs and an ace, but of course we didn't know that yet. Yeah, this train was really disappointing. And we were even more frustrated by it when it stopped and we didn't get to see it until like 2 hours later. After a while, it was passed by a swift Metra train with the Winnebago and Dash 2 combo again. Then later we were jump scared by 212. And then we caught the Amtrak once again, heading back the other direction. You need to savor these Genesis units and older coaches while you can, especially on this route, as they're soon to be replaced by the SC-44. But as they went away, we realized we had a three-way meet on our hands. An Amtrak, the stopped BNSF train, and another BNSF freight. This BNSF freight was a relatively ordinary BNSF freight. Yeah, there wasn't really anything special about it except for the fact that there was a CP GEVO in second. So that was kind of interesting. Oh, and also a H2-9 in third. So it was actually a really interesting BNSF freight. And just as the end of that train rolled into sight, the headlights on the stopped train turned on, and it started to head onto the branch line. We were super excited when this happened, because we thought there had to be at least something moderately decent on this train, but as previously mentioned, it was just two GEVOs and an ace. I do remember hearing from somewhere the aces are kind of rare off of coal trains nowadays, but I've seen plenty of them on intermodals, auto racks, and other types of trains too. By now, it was pretty clear that we weren't going to catch any special units, and we were getting bored. So I promised my dad that after this Metro with an F40PH-3 leading, the next train would be the last one. Oh, but you observant person have noticed that this video isn't nearly over yet. There's still like 2 minutes left, and that's because this happened. The minute the Metro train pulled out, another BNSF freight pulled in with an H2-9 leading and GEVO in second. And then, as if the trains just wanted me to see as many of them as possible, the minute that train pulled out, another BNSF Z train pulled in. And yeah, I know, I thought the white intermodal cars made it look like the BNSF OCS train. And yeah, it did, and I really thought it was that for a second, but no, it was just an intermodal with 2 GEVOs and a -9. The second intermodal, however, was one of the massive mega trains, so it had 2 DPUs, both of which were H2-9s. Okay, now the trains have cleared. Now we can go. Are you kidding me? Another BNSF freight pulled out. This time it was a CSX transfer grain train. The leader was a GEVO, the second was an H2-9, and the last engine was yet another YN2 AC44. I've seen more of them on this trip than ever on any trip I've gone on, even the ones where I was on CSX trackage. What? Wait. Go back. Hold up. Where did the lettering go? Why does this GEVO not have any lettering? Well, guys, look. BF GEVO. BFG. Haha. Okay. That was a strange way to end off the trip. Someone added 7787 to the list of BNSF oddballs, I guess. Strange. After that, the trains finally calmed down and we were able to leave. In order to get on the right side of the road, we had to drive over the overpass twice and caught a glimpse of this Metro train, but whatever, it was probably one we had already seen. Oh, yeah, you're probably wondering why there isn't any audio. Well, my dad turned on the radio, which played copyrighted music for the entire journey home, which sucked because I was filming the CTA, so I'm still going to show you the footage, but put Pig Step over it because that's a good song. Well, there you go. My entire trip to Bensonville this year. We caught some really good trains on day 1 and really mediocre trains on day 2. Which bothers me immensely because next weekend, UP 6706 showed up at Proviso Yard. If I had just chosen to go that weekend instead of the one I did, I could have caught it, which sucks. But hey, the suit wasn't active that weekend, so whatever, it's fine. But there has been a rumor circulating that 6706 is going to be rebuilt in UP's program pretty soon. And I swear if it does, without me getting the chance to see it, I'm going to make a rant video. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this documentary, and until next time, this is Wheel Arrangements, and make sure to come back for another vlog just like this one. Or actually not like this one, because hopefully the next one won't have as many GEVOs in it.